It's thinking about it. Here we go. We are currently live. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are going to talk about, well, kind of everything. The topic is how to hook agents and producers. And obviously, a lot goes into that. This is not something that you're going to watch this and then tomorrow get an agent or producer. Well, maybe you will. I'm not going to say you can't. But there's so many steps that go into that. And we are going to just dive in so quickly. I want to let you know what kind of our envision, what my hope and dream is for this, which is we're at the end of the year now. We're looking ahead to 2026, and we have a lot of work to do. We all do. Even if you have projects that are going right now, you got to get that next one up and running. And there's just so many steps, not only the craft itself, but the career. Then how do you keep in that right headspace to manage it all? Because we are treating our careers, our writing as our business. And so before we even get into the introductions, I want to mention that this is a video that's going to be live after we record, so you can watch the replay. And if we do our jobs really well here, this is a video that I would love for you to be able to come back to over and over again through 2026 to reintroduce yourself to some ideas, to some inspiration, and to the fact that you have the ISA here. We are all here to support you and to cheer you on. We're all in it together, and by all means, we are your extended team rooting for you. And Jeffrey, I want to start kicking it off to you because I think a conversation we had just recently, it just really struck me as this is what I like to get across all the time, which is the mentality that us writers should all have. And I'm just going to say, take it away, Jeffrey.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful kickoff. I'm trying to live up to that. But just to start with that nugget, it's something that I tell writers all the time. It's something that I see successful writers even have to remind themselves of sometimes. And it's that the single greatest reward for writing, no matter where you are in the process, should always be the act of writing itself. If you have that, then you're able to go through and write not only your best stories, but take risks, send them out. And no matter what happens with it, it's always going to be a victory, because you came out with that script, and that alone was its own reward.
I just absolutely love that. And I think, especially as we're talking about the end of the year / the beginning of the year, before we talk about what our first steps are, what we should be doing, what we need to do, there is some level of self-assessment that has to happen. And Craig, could you, comment a little bit about just knowing where you are as a writer?
Well, I think that was, you used the right word, was steps. There are a lot of steps to getting to an agent, to getting a producer's attention, and assessing where you are is really critical to making sure that you are ready for an agent or a producer, because you don't really want to blow an opportunity. So preparing as much as possible in advance is really critical. I use an agent told us is 90-10 rule, which I'll go into deeper later. But the reason an agent gets 10% is because you're supposed to do 90% of the work. And if you've done all that preparation well in advance, when you meet an agent, they're going to know you're serious about your career. When you meet a producer, they're going to know you're serious about your career, because you've done all a bunch of the steps things we're going to talk about today to prepare yourself for a future as a screenwriter, and let them know that we will get into all the details. But that's the basic. That's the gist. Knowing you filled in, or at least applied all the steps, a lot of the steps. You don't have to have every one. The analogy also being a ladder. You don't have to hit every rung. You can still get to the next rung. You don't have to hit them all if they're not in alignment with who you are, but you want to get as many of them in advance as possible.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I wanted to start this off, just hit the ground running with all these good philosophies or mentalities. And you so often, when you talk to writers or you hear people talk about writing, the evil R word comes up all the time, which is rejection. There's so much rejection in the industry. But Shayna, again, a conversation we had recently, you had such a great outlook on how to approach that.
Well, I actually took this from one of our development Slate writers, and I can't remember who I interviewed as part of the Emerging Screenwriters interview series, but she actually said this, and I loved it so much that I kind of turned it into my own visualization. I think in anything to do in this industry, you just have to have a strong sense of humor. And so the way I visualize rejection is you're in a big pit, and every rejection is either a pile of dirt or a pile of poo. And the more rejections you get, you're putting them down, right? And then the more you get, the higher you get to climb. Mm-hmm. So you're using those rejections as stepping stones, basically, to get yourself out of the pit. And sometimes your hand will come out and you'll be like, hello. And maybe your head will come up like this. Hi, I'm almost there. And then guess what? One time it's just going to be you're one rejection away. So don't stop climbing just because you're tired of it. Keep on getting those rejections because you're one closer to a yes.
I like this. So far, it's steps, it's poop. It's steps made of poop.
Yeah.
Made of poop.
And it's really just about getting yourself out of a big hole.
It's your
I hope
poopy
everyone's
steps.
feeling very inspired. Oh, I turned the lights off. Excuse me.
There we go. Well, it's not even just always getting out of the hole. It's just rising up. That's what it is. It's just, again, reframe that.
It's all about steps.
I like a big hole. I like to think of it as a giant hole. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is the industry is in a way working against you. It seems closed off a lot of times, but again, if you're not getting frustrated with rejection, you're accepting rejection as a part of the learning curve, part of the journey, part of the reality, if you want to use that word, of life in general. Everything is an obstacle. Life creates obstacles over and over and over again, but instead of getting frustrated by them, utilizing those obstacles as steps, as something to build, more dirt, more poop, whatever, to get you higher and higher up so you can get out of the hole, which is, the industry working against you in many ways. Yeah. Not that it's not attainable, because that's not what we're saying.
And absolutely not. And the other thing is to know that we all are, I hate to think of writers as competing against each other, but there's only so many screenplays that are going to be made each year. And so we are all in the same boat in a way that we're all dealing with the same things. And some people might let that beat them down and feel like I don't want to move on anymore. And as long as you keep going, you keep churning, you are somebody still going for it. You are still somebody out there.
And I would like to add to that, because we also have to sometimes look at rejection as sometimes we need to step back and do a self-assessment, because before, when I had started going to school at the Art Institute, and I had probably took maybe 2-3 classes in screenwriting, and I know how to write a script now, right? And then, but every time I was sent it to get script coverage, it was always a pass, always a pass, always a pass. And at first I was getting angry at the readers. And then after a while, it's like, hey, it must be something that I'm not doing correctly. And so then that's when I pivoted and I went to school to learn how to write, and I saw what I was doing wrong. So sometimes those rejections, you just kind of have to look at it and be like, maybe I need to do a self-assessment, and what do I need to do to make myself better?
Great. Yes. And then moving on to Molly here, let's talk about finally getting to that point of you're maybe having meetings with agents and managers. And let's, again, talk about mentality right off the bat.
Yeah, I think one thing that helps. So for a little background, I think the only one in the company that's not a writer. I come from an acting background, and it's very, well, Jeffrey, you're a writer. I mean, you're a critic of the writer. Anyway, I come from an acting background. It's extremely similar to the writing journey, looking for the agent and a manager. And so speaking from personal experience, it helps, I think, to go into the room knowing that the person on the other side of the desk wants you to be amazing. Mm-hmm. They want you to be their next star, right? So it's not about impressing and like being somebody that you're not. It's actually about fully embracing who you are, what you have to offer, and talking about yourself and your project from a very authentic place, and then making a connection with that person from an authentic level. Is this the person that I want to work with? And not giving all of your power to them. Oh my gosh, do they want me? Do they want me? Because that's really not what it's about. Are you going to mesh? Are you going to work well together as a team, as a partnership? And remember that you're the creator they don't have a job if you don't write something. So don't give it all to them. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And and then the other idea of I'll just take whoever I can get, because having an agent or having a manager is better than not having one. Not necessarily true.
Right.
And I remember even as a kid, not as a kid, but as a young adult, having that mentality shift when like going and applying for jobs. I started to interview the person that I was interviewing with, because like I only have so much life and so much time. Do I really want to work for you? You sell me on me working for you. You know?
That's 100% true.
So, and then, this is all about treating your writing like a business, because that's what it is. And unfortunately, you're the head of marketing, you're the head accountant, you're the CEO, you're doing everything. So we're going to go into all of these things, and because if you do it all right, and there's no one right way either, but hopefully if you can really cultivate your career, then you will be pursued, and that's what's going to hook agents and producers and representation. And more than that, a community around you. I wanted to mention that we are seeing the comments, so by all means, feel free to keep commenting, keep asking questions as well. I'll try to star as many as I see, and then we'll get to as many as we can at the end. But just want to acknowledge, because it's hard to, usually I'm just behind the scenes talking with you guys, but now I'm doing this too. So there's a lot going on for me. As another question just comes in, I started, I acknowledge it. So let's actually introduce now. We are joined by much of the ISA team, not everybody, but a lot of the ISA team, starting with Mr. Craig James, who is the founder of the ISA. Started this a couple of years ago.
18 years in January coming up.
We can vote.
Yeah, crazy. It's been a long journey, but a fun one. And I guess basically what I do with the company at this point is trying to create a better website and provide more opportunities and functionality for our members. And I work closely with the developers on bringing in, building the resources that we need based on the feedback that we're getting. It's a very slow process. 18 years, but we keep building, keep growing, which is great, and creating new opportunities for writers every day.
Yeah, that's the thing. The ISA, we're here. We're not doing our job unless we're making you all happy. So let us know if you have ideas, anything to improve or whatever. We're here for you. Just to quickly go through everybody else, because like I said, we're covering a lot today. Molly, please wave. She is our COO and background as an actress as well, but she is on top of everything when it comes to the ISA. She's unofficially quality control, because she makes sure I actually answer my emails and all that. So thank you for joining us, Molly. Shayna Weber, our creative executive, and she's quite the specialist on pitching and pitch decks. So we're going to get into some of that as well. Felicity Wren is our VP of development. She's again, this isn't a job title, but I'm just saying what I see them as often as well. She's such a specialist on helping writers find their voice, and she's a matchmaker. She helps make those connections for people, creatives, and people looking for great writers. Thada, Catalon, she's our digital marketing director. We have Jeffrey Morales. He's a head of submissions department. He oversees our feedback programs, our gigs, and contest submissions for the contest that the ISA runs. And then Ilana Grollman, she's an experienced reader for contests, and she's also aware of which articles on our site are worth reading, what is out there in general, because she does all the curation for our website. And I want to mention, on top of everything that all of these people do for our site and for the ISA community, we're all creators as well. So as Molly mentioned, just about all of us are writers. There's producers in this mix, people working in front of and behind the camera. So we're not just people that are, putting ones and zeros into websites. We're creators independently as well. So again, we are part of that community. So I've kind of broken this down into phases of getting a project going. Now, ideally, you've already got your project, that you've done the basic education of learning how to open Final Draft or whatever software you like and get a screenplay written. And hopefully you've spent some time on that education. There's always room for more. But ideally, we're picking it up as you've got a finished first draft maybe. And For phase one of what you're doing next, we're looking at community, feedback, and then more education. So, this is actually coming out from an interview I just did with one of our writers, Molly Ratterman. You can check it out on our YouTube and our pro tips page. Molly Ratterman is this really gifted writer, and she just shot her first feature film. And she said to me, everybody talks about writing being so isolating, and I feel that too. Like when you're really writing, you're doing a lot of that on your own. But she makes sure she's around people all the time, and she doesn't feel lonely because she's pitching ideas, she's developing concepts. And Craig, I was wondering if you could just talk about the idea of just removing that feeling of isolation from the writing process.
Yeah, I think this is one of the keys to ultimately getting an agent is the ability to work with other people and to collaborate and to get out and network and to get yourself out of your home, because we do write in a bubble a lot of times, but stepping outside of that space and brainstorming with other friends, getting into meetups, organizing groups, or coming to like ISA Fall Fest or whatever, being out there is a great way to get yourself out of that isolation, and then ultimately get yourself so comfortable being in a social environment where when you're talking to an agent, you've already kind of built a foundation for comfort in that space where you're not putting all the weight on this one person to change your whole life. You're putting the truth of who you are, the authentic person, in front of that person who could help you. Does that kind of answer your question? I don't want to take up all the time.
No. Yeah, because it is so strongly about community, and that's something that it's so hard to build nowadays. I mean, everything got shifted around as well, and people retreated inwards after the pandemic and all that. And I don't think everybody's come back out, but it is important to not feel that isolation. It's easier to be able to talk to, at least to commiserate with people that are also experiencing the same experience you are.
And may I add to that, in the relationships that you're building, they could be the lead to a project that you're perfect for as a writer, or that they met a producer and they pitched it a project. So like, this is an important part of getting out of your home, out of your total comfort zone, is that the relationship you meet, the person you meet at an event who could be another writer, has an agent who's also looking for a horror writer or somebody who writes biographies or somebody who writes whatever. And you happen to have written that. And so this connection part of it is really important as far as like stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
May I add to that? I mean, I feel like what you're kind of talking about here, Craig, and I think what the ISA site really does in general is the site itself is supposed to be a stepping stone for you as a writer to be able to get your ducks in the row, work out all the things you need, and then create the career that you want, the life that you want, the relationships that you're after. And that whole idea about using the site as a community space with Circle, and then also looking at the articles we have there, the podcasts we have there, the contests that we're offering, is really just for you to understand how the market is working and really understand where you are inside that market. So getting feedback and getting notes and entering contests and seeing how you're doing is all part of your progress as a writer. And the community aspect is really just you getting your personal brand ready. And your personal brand is the kind of like the way that you introduce yourself. So like, you know, my personal brand is obviously a crazy British woman who first thing that she found in the middle of this meeting was the fact that I talked about poop, and I have to bring it to everyone's attention because I just can't help myself. That's just who I am as a human. Then I turned off my Christmas lights. You know, then my cat arrived, then she yelled, then she nearly scratched me off camera. This is just who I am. That is definitely my brand. So understanding your voice, who you are, how you perform in the world is totally something you can practice on other people. And coming to our events that we have kind of quarterly in LA, if you're not quarterly, we used to have them all around the world, then that deadly plague came. But getting used to actually having your pitch about yourself ready so you can speak about who you are as a writer is actually essential practice. And you probably should be doing it to all your family. You've got Christmas coming up. You've missed Thanksgiving. You've got Christmas. You can practice who you are as a writer and then just talk about what really lights you up. That is your brand. That is who you are as a writer. Getting really clear on the stories you like to tell is not really, we always say now to the development Slate writers, there's 187 of them, don't you know, that we've met and we've kind of collected over the years at the ISA. I never say that you're a romance writer. You are, the genre doesn't really matter. It's about the things that you're talking about, the stories you want to tell, the dysfunctional family that you have that you're always trying to figure out, or your belief in romance, whatever it is that really kind of lights you up as a writer, really honing down and knowing what that is, practicing on other people for your personal pitch and your pitch about your work. Then when you do get a general meeting with an agent or a manager or a producer or a filmmaker or a director or an actor, you're ready to go. Because to be honest with you, it's not just about agents and producers. That's two pieces of a very, very big puzzle. The puzzle is the creative journey, as Jeffrey said, to really love and enjoy what you do, to want to be in the world telling the story. And then what you need to be is ready with what kind of stories you write and who you are as a writer, ready to go, so that if you do meet any of these people in these situations, one, you can talk about yourself and how fabulous is that. You should all be talking about yourself and the stories that you tell, and then also making those connections so that later down the, you know, remember to pick up the cards and do remember to email them. We just did some panels at AFM and the RAP Pro Women Summit. So like pick up the cards, make the connections. And honestly, everyone's crap at doing it initially. There is no one who is perfect at pitching themselves. And the only way you get better at it is to write it out, then read it self-consciously, what in a Zoom meet, like record yourself self-consciously in a Zoom thing, then try again, edit it a bit further, and just practice it on people like the same way as you would practice a pitch if you're trying to tell a story. Sorry, I realized I turned into a monologue. I live by myself. I only have 2 cats. Sorry.
Molly wants to chime in.
Okay, thanks. I want to yes and, but also shift slightly on the perspective from kind of a big picture vision of adding a little bit onto what Craig said. You need to get out of your comfort zone because that's how you're going to grow. So it's hard for everybody. It is way easier to sit on the couch and turn on Netflix than it is to go out and like get all glammed up or not, just put clothes on for God's sake and go out, shower, all the things, and go out and meet people that you don't know. It's very difficult for most people. It takes courage, it takes energy, all of it, but it is essential.
Yeah.
But if we can shift the perspective on from being like a job or something we have to do to being something we get to do because, wow, I could meet my next best friend. Yeah. I could meet somebody who I really gel with, who I want to like talk to on a weekly basis, like doesn't even have to be professional, because the people that you meet, that you go out and you make a real friendship with, you don't even necessarily need to talk about what you do or pitch yourself. You can just have a conversation and find out that you guys actually get along and you really like each other. And hey, let's go out for a drink or let's go grab coffee or whatever. And then you have another friend. And who knows what that friendship leads to. We all need lots of friends, and contacts come from everywhere, right? And it's not even just about going to networking events or parties, because this can happen anywhere. This can literally happen at a dog park, to give a little shout out to Craig. It can happen anywhere. You just have to get out of the house and just be open to it. Like say yes to everything without burning yourself out. If you get an invitation to something, or if you see a screening or a festival or a party, just go and be open, and then congratulate yourself afterwards. Like you've done something that wasn't all that easy and you've accomplished something. So kudos, pat on the back, congratulate yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Shayna could, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Shayna could expand on that. Like when you're in a pitch session, what is it they want to know, the producers and anyone who's pitching about you? More than anything, they want to know that you're friendly and
they want to know that they can work with you for the next 2 to 5 years and not scratch their eyeballs out. So you have to have some sort of personality meshing with the people you're working with. And it goes on your side too. Like you have to see if those are people that you want to work with for the next couple of years on something, and hopefully, more projects in the future.
Mm-hmm. So well before we get to the point of pitching, because we're only like having a rough draft right now, or a first cut. Jeffrey, what point should writers start looking at getting feedback from people?
Okay, so the cop-out answer that I won't just sit on is, always, all the time, right away, and that you should just focus on that. But for me, because we had spoilers, some of these questions in advance, I was really thinking about it, trying to find as in-depth an answer as I could give. And the one that I realized rang the most true to me is, once you have a sense of identity, not to directly follow up on what Felicity is saying, but it is true. And once you have an identity for yourself and your project, that's when you can go out and get those notes. And I want to be clear, that can be very vague. And just write that first draft, and you might not 100% know what you're trying to write in that moment. You might not know even the style, the tone, or even the plot, but there's something intangible that's true about that story. And you have a sense that, okay, if someone tries to change that, I'm not going to be okay with it, because that's my identity. Once you have that rock, then you can go out and you can get notes. And depending on how solidified that is in your mind, that's where you can also determine what kind of feedback you need to get. So as an example, if you are very green and you're really not sure, you might want something more beginner in terms of feedback. You might also be more gravitating towards a writer's group, because their identities might reflect your own, and you're going to be able to maintain that sense of identity through the notes process. But then you get more experience, or maybe you hit a wall and you need someone to do more of a deep dive. Then you go for more advanced notes. And so that's the process you want to go through. And you want to maintain that throughout your career, of going and stopping and going, what am I doing? What is my identity? Have I started to maybe change that? Because I can tell you there are really, really, really good readers. Like reader A might be magnificent, top of their game, and they have criticism, but that criticism does change your writing, and you shouldn't be doing that. Reader B, same level of experience, and their writing is actually, or their criticism, is going to allow you to refine your vision and find that story that's inside of you. So that's my recommendation, is to always check for your identity.
That's profound, man. More than just a log line, do you suggest like writing a mission statement for yourself individually and for each project, or how would you what practical advice would you give for people to stay on target like that?
Different writers are going to have a different need for structure. Some writers, they just love that blank page. They love entering the scene and having absolutely no idea where it's going to go. For some people, it is just start with the sentiment, start with that log line, and then build from there. And so experiment. There are a million different ways you can start a story. My favorite is when I hear about someone, they're just walking down the road and they saw one image and a story bloomed from that. But for other people, it might be that they've heard a fable in their family. They're all valid. And don't try to change that. Whatever you're thinking of right now, the people in the audience, that's valid. And that's probably the one you want to just pause and stick with as long as you can.
That's great. So, Craig, I was going to ask you about how, the idea of community feedback education, how the ISA can help. I do want to chime in because there's a good segue, just looking at some of the comments here, because we want to talk about what free resources are already available to everybody on our site, on our YouTube channel. There were some people saying, I wish there were some reps on this call, some agents or managers. And we've done tons of events with agents and managers. So there's already so much video out there, replays of events that you can find. Some of a lot of it is for free. Some of it is exclusive to ISA Connect members. Just subscribing to the ISA YouTube channel is a great place as well. This is, of course, supposed to be a roundtable where it's just hearing from us directly, the ISA staff. But there's so much good stuff out there. Craig, what else should we highlight?
Well, I think there is that, right? Like there's all sorts of videos, and in particular, just learning the different aspects of what you're writing. I think to Jeffrey's point a little bit, like even to understanding your identity or understanding your voice, because when you go into an agency and pitch them, or you meet an agent or a manager or a producer, you really need to know your own identity as a writer and your voice, and understanding your voice is really kind of critical. So there's a bunch of videos like that. There's also other articles that can help you kind of dive into understanding who you are as an artist or creator and getting feedback, understanding all the how to break down your story, why people are, what the readers are being critical of, and how to evaluate that. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of value, and then even the free events that we run or other things that we promote. But
yeah, so in addition, we have newsletters, putting out lots of content there, and also I'd say from the very beginning, especially if you're talking about the beginning of this next phase, make sure you have your ISA profile set up right now. Like, just make sure you've got at least the core, the basics set up, because you're soon going to have success stories to start adding to it. So let's clear the path so that you can start to celebrate all the good things that are coming up.
Something that's on the profile that we don't bring up enough is the My Story video, where you can talk about who you are as an artist, record a video. I know some of us get nervous. I was nervous for this event, but you can re-record over and over until you get it right. And a My Story video is something that is seen on your profile that agent, producer, managers can see and get a sense of who you are, so they can kind of connect. And they may see a My Story video that has a slight pitch to one of your projects, which is okay too. Or you're talking about what it is what you're most passionate about. Again, it's all about showing who you are as a person and connecting yourself to, when you do connect with other people, producers, agents, managers, if you are a little hesitant to be out in the community, do a My Story video, and that listed on the showcase, or when you send out your link to your profile, an agent can watch. And then, oh, okay, well, this person's really passionate about this thing or some other thing. And that's kind of aligns. So I think there's a lot of value in the My Story video, which we need to make a little bit more prominent. And we will be on our next iteration of the site coming soon.
I do love somebody chimed in talking about how they love the ISA script library. Again, it's another service. You just have to be signed up for the ISA. You don't have to be, you don't have to pay for it. It's just something there, and it's a great resource. There's a lot of them. This website is big, so there's a lot of little features everywhere. Okay, so moving forward, getting into phase 2, where we start to revise, start new projects, enter contests, and then get into marketing a little bit too. Let's start with Ilana. Welcome to the chat.
Thank you.
How should writers take notes? And then when do you think that they've had enough notes? Because it could just go on forever. You could just keep getting more and more and more feedback, trying to please everybody. When is enough?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to echo what Felicity and Jeffrey have been saying, I think really remembering the identity of the project. I mean, absolutely. Getting feedback could definitely feel like, okay, this reader suggested this, so I should do that because that's what they think will make it better. But I think it's really important to be getting constantly a lot of feedback. Reach out to your friends who are writers. Reach out to people that maybe don't work with scripts as much, and get a lot of different ideas and really see, okay, what is the common denominator? What are all these people saying? And then it's really about finding what resonates with you. I was in a critique class where I was getting feedback from maybe like 8 people every class, and it could feel overwhelming at times having all of these different opinions. But at the end of the day, it was really important for me to just remember, okay, this is the identity of the project, and take what I resonated with the most. I think also with feedback, sometimes it could feel very daunting. Like, for example, to be told maybe by a reader that a page, like starting a fresh new draft, is the recommendation. I think that could be really nerve-wracking. But feedback is all about finding the greatest potential for the project. The reader and whoever is reading your script really wants to take that project to the next level, and they're coming at it with an angle of, how can we elevate this? So it's all positive. I think sometimes it was hard for me as a younger writer to take feedback at times. It could feel like an attack, but it's never from that angle. It could feel like that, but it's really important to shift that mindset.
Right.
Can I think just hop in, if you don't mind?
Please.
I just wanted to follow up on that. we can't speak for all readers, but I can speak at least for the readers on our team and the readers that people on this team would seek out themselves. The first job of any reader is to believe in the project, is to believe that it can get better. And if that reader doesn't believe that, if they haven't absorbed that from the start before they start putting any pen to their notes, then they shouldn't be reading the project at all. They shouldn't be giving criticism to it. But that's twofold. The one part of it is that they have faith in the writing, they have faith in the writer. The other part of that is that they also believe that it can get better. And so you want to make sure that you are getting feedback from people who have that mentality.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of you could take from like a writer's room with Vince Gilligan, whomever. I would bring him up a lot, but he doesn't just write every episode of every show he's show running. He works with a group of writers, and that is your feedback, and getting as much feedback from people you trust while still knowing the core of the story and your identity, what it is you're trying to say. There's a difference between getting notes from people, even an agent or a manager, that don't feel aligned with what you're trying to say. You should listen if you really vibe with that agent or manager, and then because sometimes we get resistant just because, for whatever reason. So, but allow the note to come in, process it, sit with it, meditate on it. Some of it may not be the right note for you. I can see Felicity's ready to jump in, but I think there's just being careful of being too resistant of some notes and then being too easy to please or eager to please in other notes. You really have to understand, again, the identity of what you're trying to say and your voice and what the story is all about before just diving into every request from an agent, manager, producer to change every little detail in your script, because sometimes it's their story in their head. If you get the wrong readers, they're trying to tell you how to write the story they want to see, but that's not the story you're writing. You're writing the story you want to see on the big screen or on TV. And you have to, don't be so hardcore about like, no notes, I don't want to hear it, you're wrong. You have to take it all in, but then also know truly what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
I want to add. Oh,
Go ahead, Ilana. Go ahead.
I was just going to add one final thing. I think it's really important to be able to sit with that feedback. I think there were times personally when I would receive feedback and immediately disagree with it. But then a week later, after thinking about it a lot more or looking at my script again, I would really resonate with the note, and it would be really crucial for my next steps. So being able to come back to it, I think is really important as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm just echoing what you were going to say, Ilana, in the fact that if it really annoys you, there's something in there. I'm sorry to say. It's like, the thing is, like, when you're an actor and you're like, I'm just going to rush over this bit because I don't really understand what I'm saying. You haven't really got to the emotional core of it. And you'd be like, if you're directing, if you look at an actor, you go like, what's going on with you there in that moment? And I feel like exactly the same thing happens with notes. If there's something that is so annoying and really couldn't possibly be true, you don't have to take it, but you need to look at it. And there's that other thing about making sure that you've had the note a few times, it keeps coming back to you. But ultimately, it's all just feedback, it's just feedback. You can take it, you can leave it. It's really up to you. This is the whole thing. This is your career, your choice, your move forward. And all that we're talking about here is giving you ideas for how you can, bring and elevate your career to its next step. And it is just a series of steps. There's been a lot of steps in this. So I've seen some questions, I'm here and I'm here, but I don't need to get to this next bit. I guess what we're trying to do is make sure we've got the foundation, that you're properly ready to go. And then there is these next steps. And no one says those final steps are easy. In fact, they're they feel impossible. But there has to be a sense of you being ready in your heart, in your preparedness for yourself. Because I think we can sometimes self-sabotage or not be ready or not feel confident or have imposter syndrome. And that is actually getting in our own way. So what can we do to make sure that we have done everything we can to be ready when the time comes?
Yeah. So we got one side where we're developing the screenplay. We've got the project side that we're working on now for our own individual self, our own corporation. Let's start looking at marketing, how do we start to market ourselves? Our projects are moving forward. Thada, how should we start to get ourselves out there and let people know that, hey, we're a writer and we're taking this seriously?
And it all still starts with the foundation, with marketing, meaning that before you start getting really loud with it, have you built the foundation yet? Meaning that, have you updated your LinkedIn? Have you updated your ISA writer profile? When you Google yourself, do the ISA writer profile pops up? Do your LinkedIn pop up? Do your Instagram pop up? And then on those platforms, Facebook, if you're still there, TikTok, whichever is your domain. But I will also say, whatever is your domain may not necessarily be where all of the agents and producers and, managers are at. Are they still on Twitter? Have they moved to Blue Sky? Reddit, where are they? Where are they having conversations at? So you can be in those conversations, not begging for a handout, but if they're saying something clever, you're in those conversations, just being conversational, like you're their friend or whatever. And they're constantly seeing your name. Believe me, they're going to remember you because you're always there. A matter of fact, turn on the bell, the notification bell, because you could be one of the first ones that make a response, because at that point, other people, if you're saying something, that's, garnering a lot of attention, they're going to be liking it. So now you're going to move all the way to the top. So, and on those platforms, whatever it is, Instagram, LinkedIn, what is in your bio? And that is your brand story, which Shayna and Felicity will eventually tell you a little bit more about that. And we do also have a video on that on our site. But your brand story is what is inside on your Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever platform you're on, because they do, like, go and visit your Instagram, any of your social media, your profile. And if you don't think that they do, then you're sadly mistaken, because even in corporate, that's what everybody do now. They're Googling you. They want to see if you're going to be a liability to their company. What are you talking about? Are you controversial, but controversial in a good way? Are you a troll? They want to know that before even getting engaged, to even see if they want to do a general meeting to get to know you even further. They already got a first impression by going to your social media. So that is how you lay down the foundation. And then you just start being very loud and present on those platforms. We have a writer, an ISA writer. I believe she's on the development slate. I can't think of her name. Shayna might remember her name because she has sent me the video. But she's always doing videos. She's like, oh, I just did
Jen Butler.
Yes, Jen Butler. She does videos. She's talking about what she's doing, what her process is. So she's constantly letting people know that, hey, I'm a writer, I'm out here, but it's still clever, because we're storytellers, right? So you should be able to write a story and be able to tell a story in your videos on social media. And if you're like, I'm not really a video person, well, there's other ways to make yourself seen on those social media platforms, but you definitely need to be there. That's where everybody is at. That's the age we're in.
To support that, like, think about the fact that a producer or studio network, whomever, is going to invest potentially millions of dollars into your project. Not a lot of projects get made in a year compared to how many get registered at the WGA. If they're going to invest millions of dollars, they want to know who you are as a person, which we've talked about before. And if you're posting nothing on social and no one can find you, that says one thing to some degree. But on the other side, if you're posting if you're trolling people, and these are extremes, I get the one side or the other, but find a happy medium, a place inside where you're interactive, you're engaging with the community, you're talking about great movies that you've seen, talking about dissecting them and why you didn't like them instead of just hammering them all the time. Because you never know, one of the movies you hammered happens to be an executive. It's a movie that one of the executives, that they work for that studio. So you just have to be careful with what you say, but you can do it. You can do all this stuff in a fun way. So when we even search some of our members who are invited onto the development slate to make sure that they're going to represent the ISA in the best way, in a professional manner. So all of that comes into play.
Yeah, I want to give 2 examples of big people. Lee Daniels, I was a finalist in a screenplay competition. I had went to the festival, and one of the ladies that was also a finalist, she was on the airplane with him. And they were talking, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to the festival," and she was letting him know. And he was like, "Oh, well, what's your Instagram, or what, where you at?" And she's like, "I'm not on social media." Now she don't even have a connection to Lee Daniels.
That's true. A lot of people, that's how we connect now. It's not a send me your email or give me your phone number. Are you on? I get that all the time. Are you on social?
Yeah. So if you're not on social, get on social.
This is something we speak to our writers about a lot on the development slate. And I think it's something that, when you're feeling helpless, maybe you can have a bit of at least something to do, you know what I mean? That makes you kind of go like, I'm moving my career forward. And that is to think about who you'd like your rep to be, who you'd like your manager to be, who you'd like your agent to be, what producers you'd like to work with, actors you'd like to be in your piece. And it feels a bit far away, especially when you're kind of like, you're not in LA. It seems like a pipe dream, but so therefore you should take every project for where it's at. So if you're writing a low budget thing, don't put Jennifer Aniston in it. She's not going to be in it, but you can think about other directors that maybe you've seen that have done well at Sundance, though if it's not a writer director, or even a smaller local film festival that you have attended, because you're going out there and you're pushing your comfort zone and you're trying to meet some new people, and then someone directed a film in that actually might be a good director for you to meet with. And so you just start building a list, a spider's web, we like to call it. We call them a producer map, but really you can make your own, where you have a project, you've worked out its identity, you've worked out where it sits in the marketplace. Is it a streaming thing? Is it a low budget indie? Is it, have you got big dreams? Is it a theatrical release? And if you were to actually kind of move it forward, what kind of director would you work with? What kind of actor would be a lead role in it? And if it is a smaller one, start looking at these smaller actors, try and become an expert in it. Even if you never reach these people, what you can do is next time you're speaking to someone about it, you can say, I have found this actor that I really like who just won an award at a local festival, and she's really brilliant. And you just don't know what the connections are. If you don't start to put this energy, and it is an energy thing, out into the universe, you're never going to know. And also, that's the fun bit. The whole thing about making a pitch deck is that you're putting all your visions that you've had in your mind onto the paper. So you've got this producer's web, you've kind of cast it with these amazing people. Now, in a not a bad way, you kind of just go and you find them on LinkedIn, and you find them on Instagram, and you find them on X, and you do follow them. And on IMDb Pro, you can put a link when a producer that you're following has an article out in Variety or somewhere else. If that article comes out, read it, message them, send them a little message, put them a congratulations on your new thing, your new project that's just come out. There is something about having your name keep coming up. This is why we suggest that people write success stories at the ISA. I might be jumping ahead, sorry, Scott. But I think the reason why I kind of suggest success stories is because for 2 reasons. One is because things are here and then they go. You can get optioned, and then suddenly that option falls through, and then it doesn't exist anymore, and no one will know about it. You knew about it, but you didn't tell anyone because you were suspicious. You were worried it wasn't going to work out. You were superstitious, not suspicious, superstitious. And now it doesn't exist anymore. Whereas if you'd have posted it on your site, you'd have had the record of the fact that it was optioned once. And honestly, I check success stories all the time. It's one of the places we look to find writers. And the other thing you're doing when you post your success story, it's not bragging, because you're just doing it for you on your profile. And then we look at them and we select some of them to go on the main site. You know what you're doing? You're inspiring other people to try. And you're showing them what you did and how your journey has been and how you have moved your career forward. And someone might take that little thing that you did, and they might do it too, and it could help them. So don't think of it as bragging and it is a terrible thing. Think of it as the fact that you're all in this together. It's not a competition. Even if we gave you the same starting points for a story, you would all write different ones, because that's what you're bringing. You bring your own heart, your own soul, your own mind, your own life experience thus far. So you're not in competition with each other. And we keep being given this idea that somehow you need to beat someone else. You don't. You're on your own journey, having this own path. But what can you do to really help yourself with that? So work out who you'd like to work with, who you think would be a great partner for you, and just make a few names, but stay away from what's his name, Spielberg. Those other ones. They're quite busy, they're quite busy already. Choose ones that you can meet.
Yeah, we'll make this the success stories part, because I always just love to shout out Michael Graff, another one of our development Slate writers. He was very good at sharing his successes. He had a screenplay finish in the top 10 or as a finalist somewhere. He would share all this, and it got some local press attention. He's writing in Wisconsin. So as we're talking about, it's going to feel very hard to do this outside of Los Angeles. He's writing in Wisconsin. And a local newspaper did an article about, hey, we've got this great screenwriter apparently living amongst us. The next day, literally the next day after that article went up, a producer who had a movie set in Wisconsin Googled screenwriter Wisconsin, and that article came up. And then they hired him to write the movie Green and Gold, which came out in theaters this past January. So things like that happen, but not if you're not sharing the success, getting your own branding out there. So love that.
How to be talking about yourself. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that's a part of marketing as well. Your success stories. Yeah. Like you said, if you're keeping it all inside, then how anybody know what you're capable of doing? So, and that's your resume. So just look at it as it's a part of your resume. It's a different form because this is, we're in a different type of working environment, but it is a part of your resume. And you do boast on your resumes or your cover letters. So that's how you should approach success stories.
And they can happen anywhere. It's not just on the website. Molly brought up at the dog park, me just talking to the guy, another guy with another dog owner, and having a great conversation, getting to know each other, becoming friends. And he said, what do you do? I said, I'm an independent filmmaker, and I just had this short screen over at a Chicago Film Festival, and Steven Zacharias, who wrote Revenge of the Nerds, really loved it. He's like, oh, I want to see it. So he saw it. And the next day he wrote me a check to fund my pilot. I mean, you just don't know if you're not sharing the good things that are happening in your life. And it doesn't matter how small it is. It can be anything from a table read that you do with your friends and you celebrate that. It's a success. You got actors or friends to perform your words, which is an incredible tool in the first place, to hear your words spoken by another human being. What an awesome moment that is. Every little thing that you can do to celebrate is a step on the ladder that we talked about towards being searchable. And when you have a conversation with an executive agent or whomever, you can talk about, I just did this table read with my friends and I really learned something about my screenplay, and I changed these characters and I just tightened up this one. And now you have something to talk about. You have a conversation piece, conversation starter. And an agent's going to be like, oh, interesting. You had actors perform your screenplay? Even if they're just friends, it doesn't matter. It's about using each of those tools to make to impress on agents and managers and producers that you are taking your career very seriously. No matter how small it feels at first, celebrate.
Mm-hmm. And that success story helps when you're posting and we're seeing you. Specifically Felicity and Shayna, they're seeing you and, they're like, oh, this person is active. What they got going on? And then they go read one of your scripts and like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. I'm going to, select them to be a staff pick. And then all of a sudden, an agent reach out and like, hey, what is this? And now they're sending your script to this agent or manager or producer, whoever is requesting it. So that is a huge part of an amazing reason why you should want to make sure you're posting your success stories.
Yeah. So, Shayna, on to you next. I want to talk about, as a writer yourself and as a filmmaker, you're constantly Plus, you're also talking with Felicity, with a whole bunch of our development Slate writers and other writers in our community. One great script does not a career make. And also when you're meeting with an agent or a manager, prospective agent or manager, they want to know that you have more than one screenplay. At what point, maybe even personally, do you start moving from one project and you're still pitching and trying to build this one up? When do you start working on the next one? Or how do you tell people, give advice on how to juggle multiple projects going at once?
Well, I'm somebody who probably has like 8 projects going at once. So I think that you always have to have ideas or things in different stages all the time. I don't think that you can write one script and then go, okay, this is the script I'm going to take out, and then only think about that script. And then if nothing happens, then go, okay, I guess that one's dead, and then start a new one. I think that you should always be churning out ideas. The thing that always happens in pitch meetings is, you pitch one project and it's not for them. And then they'll ask you, what else do you have? And so you'll throw out, 2 or 3 other scripts, but then you throw out the one idea that you're like noodling right now, right? The one that you're like, well, but I'm just started on this one. And you kind of loosely pitch it and they'll go, that's the one we want. That's one we're interested in. So then you're like, and I gotta, you gotta scramble and you gotta finish it so that they don't lose that sparkle, looking at shiny things. You want to stay the shiny thing. So in that specific question, always be working on new projects, always be coming up with new ideas and in different phases, an outline phase and writing something and having something written, reaching out to people about projects that you have. There's been a lot of questions about finding the connections. How do you find the connections? I mean, if that was an easy answer, we'd all be doing it. That's like a personal thing that you have to figure out what clicks for you and play the long game. The long game is what everyone's been talking about. Craig met someone at the dog park. Like, go find and do things that you love. If you love dog rescue, go work at a dog rescue. You never know who you're going to meet there. And who's going to know somebody who's going to know.
That was in Chicago. That wasn't here in Los Angeles where it was high concentration, right?
You still were just out at a dog park and you happened to be talking about what you're doing. So you just got to, even if you don't live in LA and you live somewhere else, if you're only online, if you can't go out networking, guess what? There's a whole online community that you can use to reach out to people. And that's in the same line as working on writing, you have to be working on the business side of it. So Scott, to answer your question in a long way, it's always be writing and then always be selling.
Yeah, that's easy.
Building relationships.
You guys, everyone, come on. You're writers.
Yeah, it is. It's got to be tough to, and I can't really even speak to this because I am definitely the person that puts all my eggs in one basket, and I'm tunnel focused on one thing. But shifting gears between the two, I mean, I wish I could keep those plates spinning. I don't know. Do you have any practical advice on how you do it? Because obviously we're not in a vacuum.
Not well. My advice is, well, I'm also a mom, so I have a kid who pulls me in 1,000 different directions and school activities and other things. And I want to write and I want to do this and I want to go here and I want to go here. I try to break it down into manageable time chunks where, let's say, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours of writing and no distractions, and I put my phone away and I try to not open social media or go to the refrigerator 15 times, whatever it is. And then maybe another 2 hours, you're like, okay, this 2 hours, I'm just going to research producers that I feel like might fit into this and maybe reach out to 5. But then also maybe this 2 hours, I'm going to watch something and just like chill and watch something that I need to watch. So I don't know. I mean, everyone just needs to kind of find a way to manage time, but I do it in small doses and chunks so that I don't, lose 8 hours and then feel bad about myself.
Sometimes there's putting a little distance between you and a project is good anyway, right? Like you look at, I've used these examples before, but Schindler's List and Brokeback Mountain and The Queen's Gambit, those took 10, 12, and 30 years to be discovered. And sometimes you've written something that's kind of before the industry is even ready for it. So standing back from it, plus when you get back into it, you can look at it from a whole new perspective and be like, oh, all right, so the things I've learned in the 6 months or a year since I've worked on that have changed, have evolved. And now I see this, and this, and even looking back at notes, be like, oh crap, they had it right. I just was resistant to it. So it's putting a little bit of time in between things is really helpful. So if you can't juggle a million plates or spin a million plates like Shayna's capable of doing, and you can only spin one at a time, then that's okay. Just do that for a little, like a month or 90 days, whatever time frame, and then revisit. It's just, you got to find your own kind of rhythm with it.
Well, also, one project can enrich another. So you might be writing something that is very heavy, and that might make you really primed to write something that's more of an escapist piece. And it might not be something you're thinking, oh, this is going to go on my profile, but you just feel refreshed in writing it. And now you go back to that heavy material and you go, oh, actually I have some separation. And say, for example, you found some things that were sentimental in that other project. You come back and you go, oh, actually this needs a little bit of that thing that I wrote on the side. There are entire movies and, in fact, entire TV shows where the creator had done one thing and said, I need to go do something else. And that was the hit. So you can think about it that way. When you're writing something else, if your writing is always just growing and enriching you as the writer, you're actually improving that other project that is on the shelf for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, we will be moving forward quicker in our outline because we are lagging right now. But I'll make this a jump ball maybe between Ilana, Jeffrey, Craig. How could writers, what's the appropriate way? What's the best way for writers to use contests or fellowships? If, again, we've got the screenplay, it's gone through some feedback, it's ready to start getting out there on that level. What are your thoughts?
Ilana, you want to take it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it is about accountability. Something that I think about is having these deadlines to inspire revisions or, rewriting or taking those next steps, getting more feedback to help meet those deadlines. And also, yes, the goal is always to place in a competition or become a winner. It's an amazing achievement, but the writing isn't done at that point. The end goal is really to create a strong story and to create something that you're proud of. And yes, the competition is a great tool for that, but it's always just to inspire. Personally, I think how you're going to continue to elevate the story, how you're going to take this validation and how you're going to use that momentum, and just having these deadlines to keep pushing you forward.
Excellent.
And to see how the industry is gauging your work, right? Because if with a legitimate competition, if you're not placing in not even making quarterfinals from a legitimate competition, that's right out of the gate tells you your screenplay is not strong enough yet. And it's very competitive industry. So if you got notes, implement those notes and go in again. Each competition, using those deadlines, doing the rewrites, not expecting I'm going to write a screenplay, have it done by such and such date for this deadline, and I'm going to win that contest and get $10,000 or go wherever, and whatever the big win is, and have the connection, agents, whatever, script placing in the industry.
Yes. Yeah, and there's Craig has got a great video out there about using contests to get feedback and the appropriate way to do that. So definitely check that out. It's one of the Take 10 with Craig videos series that we do.
Yeah, and
so
I was going to say, shouldn't we also? You should definitely enter the 4 free if you're ISA Connect, enter the 4 free contests that we have every year. They go out at quarterly, and that doesn't cost you anything apart from your ISA Connect membership. And if you enter 2 of those contests, it's made back the membership for you. So that's the reason why we put those in, so that if you are waiting to see if you have a new project and you're like, I don't know if I want to spend any money getting a contest read on it. I don't want to pay that contest submission. Choose one of the free ones. You know what I mean? And get it out there. We do want you to use the free stuff on the site as well. And if you are, we also have the Student Fellowship and the Diversity Initiative, which are annual free competitions.
Can I say also that there's sometimes online people say that, well, if it's free to submit or part of the Connect membership, it's not getting judged the same way. That is 100% not true. And at least, I think it's at least maybe, or it's 50-50. the waivers have won competitions and our fellowships. So you're saving money and you're checking to see if your script is ready for the industry, which is an important thing. You need to know, is your script ready is it ready for an agent or a producer or manager? If you're not placing in competitions, it's not. And that might be a hard pill to swallow, but we don't want to be cynical and say it's the readers, they didn't understand what I'm saying. It's on you to make sure that they understand what you're saying. And if you're not placing in legitimate competitions like the ones we run and other companies, there's other great companies like Script Pipeline and whatever that will you can use as well, but utilize those free ones to make sure, see where you're placing, and then get back and do the rewrites and do another polish if you're not.
Yeah. I just want to mention.
You can, sorry, I always interrupt Scott. I just like doing it. But the other thing I wanted to follow up on, something Ilana was talking about, this idea of deadlines. And one of the ways you can use that beyond just going, okay, I have this deadline and I have to write to it. Take a pause and look at how you were as a writer at that deadline. And by that, I mean, are you someone who is maybe going from deadline to deadline, going, okay, I'm going to get this in, I'm going to get this in, and you had planned the previous deadline to have more revisions, to work on more projects? Each deadline is an opportunity to ask yourself, am I being as prepared as possible? And could I prepare more for the next deadline? And that is also, to follow up on what Felicity was saying, the regular free entries are very, very useful because you know they're going to be there. You have a cadence and you can look at that. Because I have writers, they're very good writers, but they do kind of tumble from one deadline to the next. And at some point you have to say, all right, take a pause, look at how you're writing, how you're allocating time, and maybe adjust that. And that's just going to make writing more pleasant in general. And you're probably going to do a little bit better in those contests.
Yeah. And a lot of people do not, but school is so expensive. And our last table read runner for Cannes, Allegra, she said that she used these contests like her schooling. So she enter a contest and then she get feedback and then she make her script better. And then she became a grand prize winner. So it works. You just have to be willing to, especially if you know that they're not willing to go and spend thousands, hundreds of $1,000s for school, you're like, okay, but this is an affordable way for me to figure out. And like you said, we get 4 free waivers. This is a very, very affordable way for me to figure out if my script is cutting the mustard, and then what do I need to do to fix it, to make it better for the next entry.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Somebody had mentioned that, contests are not my goal, making the movie is. This is all what we're building towards. Of course, the contests are not the end goal. At one point, I worked 2 part-time jobs. I worked for HBO Films and Revolution Studios. And this is at the time period where Revolution was doing Black Hawk Down and Triple X and Daddy Daycare and big Hollywood popcorn movies. And I was working at HBO Films, which is about the art. And I was there able to see up close and personal that we were scouting the same people that were winning contests. So these very different types of companies, they had different outlooks on what they were looking for in emerging talent, but they were both looking, and those names were being talked about in the same offices. Very interesting. And so people do notice all over the place. So let's move forward to actually, as people were talking about, we want to know about meeting people. So networking, pitch practice, and submissions. So Molly, what would you talk about when it comes to getting out there and starting to network?
Oh, I thought we already did this section. Okay, so some places, some things you can do. Film festivals, panels, film markets, events, like anything that's just happening that has anything to do with the industry. And then other things like join a writer's group or even create your own writer's group.
Or create your own Third Thursdays.
Getting there. There are several of our members have started their own groups. There's like WGA Mix, which is in LA. They do a live, I think, not quite monthly, but close event. There's another online writers group or networking group. There's a lot of things. You just kind of have to look and ask people, ask around. Third Thursdays is, a couple of people have alluded to it, something that we did in 22 cities around the world pre-COVID. It is popping up in cities again. We have our LA one quarterly now, but monthly they have Madison, New Orleans, Boston sometimes. If you're in one of those cities, or if you're not, if you're in a different city and you're like, well, yeah, let's do this, please reach out to me. We would love to get more Third Thursdays going. They're a fantastic way to meet other writers and people in the industry and make connections. We have fantastic success stories come out of the events. People are meeting people that they're now collaborating with, directors and writers, people getting engaged. I mean, like, crazy stuff happens. So it's just a matter of, again, what we've been saying, just get out there, take a walk, go to the park, go to a restaurant, go to a coffee shop, say hello to the person next to you. It's just about putting yourself out there. The other thing to remember is when you're at events, most of the people there, if it's an industry event, they are doing the same thing. It's not easy for any of us, and we're all trying to meet people. So you can start a conversation without a huge worry that you're going to get rejected, because they want to meet you just like you want to meet them. It's just who's going to take the first step.
Absolutely. And there was a comment much earlier about, can we start doing events in New York again? Maybe you can help us with that.
Yes,
if you want to
please
take the
reach out.
lead. Because we have done events in the past in New York many
Yes.
times, but it has been a little while. And yeah, maybe we'll get the next Third Thursday. Maybe you could be part of helping us get that going again. So getting out there, and maybe we've made some phone calls and we're going to start to pitch, or maybe we're not at that point yet, but we want to make sure that our pitch is ready. Shayna, you give so much advice when it comes to helping people get their pitch ready, and it's a whole thing. And we've done whole events just on this topic. But what are some core essentials that people should think about right off the bat?
When it comes to pitching, and that means verbal pitching, I would say that the majority of people who aren't getting it are thinking that your verbal pitch is like your written synopsis, and it's not. So when you're pitching someone your project, think of it like a campfire story. Think of it like you're meeting your friend at a bar and you're like, you will not believe what just happened to me. It's that kind of, you want that, like, lean in, that person going, yes, I want to know what just happened to you, right? Or what's happening to the person who went out in the forest by themselves. You want that hook. And the hook does not necessarily mean plot of your story. It means your personal connection to it. It means why you wrote it. It means the emotional relatability that your main character has out in the world. Or the why now. Why does this story matter now? Why are people going to, tell the next person to go see it or watch it or go to the theater? I mean, I think that horror has had such a great surge in the last few years, just about like the word of mouth. So one example, like Weapons, what a great hook. 2:17 a.m., a classroom full of students leave their house, run out into the street and disappear. I mean, if that doesn't give you like the tingles and you're like, oh my God, what happens? That's what I'm talking about when you're pitching something, is like, that person has to then take what you've told them to somebody else. So the easier and simpler you make that connection with them, the better it is and easier it is for them to remember it and take it to somebody else. So I would say, to answer that, those are kind of the differences between pitching on paper and pitching in real life.
That's great. And then, so Thada, getting into the marketing of a project now, I mean, do you want to start creating hype for a project even before you're pitching it, or maybe when you're about ready to pitch it? And then what would you do to, create materials for that?
Yeah. We didn't say this earlier to everyone, but I'm also a producer. So a lot of times what I look for in a screenplay, or when somebody reach out to me for a consultation or something like that, and especially when they're saying what type of budget, when you're marketing, you need to know who you're marketing to, right? What type of producer? Are they an indie producer? Are they creating like ultra low budget films, moderate low budget films, low budget, big budget? Who are they? And do your script fit their needs? So if you know, like I always tell independent, because most independent filmmakers are making like ultra low budget films, right? And then I'm like, okay, but you need to create a contained film because, you know, ultra low budget go up to like $300,000. Then you need to create a contained film. But you come to me and you have like 25 actors, you have 20 locations. And I'm like, so if you're about to pitch that to someone, soon as they open up that script, they already see you have 10 actors in the first 5 pages, is like, okay. Or you have like tons of extras and, you know, it's like, this is not for me. So you've already lost the battle, you know, and it hasn't even really started yet. So that when we talk about marketability, it's making sure that you have what that particular producer or manager or agent needs. What are they normally pitching to these different, you know, companies to get a film off the ground? Is it going to cost a lot of money? Because a lot of production companies are just not looking for something that is going to cost them $100 million. You know, those are rarities. I'm not saying don't ever make that, you know, I'm not write that, but I'm just saying that know who you're pitching to at the time. And are you ready for that? Have you got a true green light, you know, from getting feedback and they say, this is like great, this is amazing, somebody would die to have this, then you're like, okay, I'm you know, you're on the right track. Then another way, I always use this example. He was a director. He created a sizzle reel for Bel Air, and that's how the new series came about. And Will Smith saw the sizzle reel that went viral because everybody was like, oh, I would love to see Bel Air in this way, you know. And so boom, he all of a sudden got it made. And so that is how you know you have something marketable. Are you inside of forums? You're creating polls on, like, if, say, for instance, if you have a certain theme that you want to discuss, if it has something to do with domestic violence, or like I did a film, Created Equal, about a woman becoming a priest in a Catholic church. Do anybody want to see a woman become a priest in a Catholic church? I mean, that can create a lot of conversation online, and then you'll know exactly. And that's the part of research, is finding out, is there truly an audience for what you're trying to put out there? Because then you could present that to someone. You can say, hey, you know what? I gained 100,000 followers just based off of these conversations that I was having about this controversial topic. I think this is something hot that I think a lot of people will want to see. So, and that's just the day and age that we're in. It's just what it is. They're finding, you know, all these influencers, you know, just like the woman who had the story on TikTok that went viral, and now she got I can't think of her name right now, but dang, I wish I could think of her name. But anyway, she got a series that's going to be coming out just based off of the TikTok series that she created. That's our era. That's where we at. And if you want to be seen, and you want it to happen, and you're ready to show them that it's marketable, because that's how she showed them. I don't think she was really looking for a TV deal, but she got one. But she was able to prove that it was marketable. And I see a lot of people are starting to do that now. It's like, you're going to have to figure out a way to show that there's people who want to see this. I just had to do it for a script that I'm writing. I was like, and I'm in marketing, so I use some of my tools, and I went looking up stuff to show, like, no, there's an audience for this, and it was like, all right, we hear you. So that's just what you have to do, is just find the people out there that's looking for what you are presenting.
Love it. I mean, I'm a nerd for history and archaeology, and I put out some videos sometimes, and I've been invited to pitch reality show ideas based around that interest of mine. So, I mean, these things, you put yourself out there, stuff echoes back sometimes. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's say we're at the point now where we are starting to line up for meetings, general meetings, getting to know executives, managers, prospective agents. Shayna and Felicity, you work with writers a lot, especially our fast track fellows, who you set up tons of interviews for, not interviews, but meetings. Maybe we'll start with Felicity. What are the most common maybe misconceptions, or maybe things that you have to talk these people through that have not been to one of those meetings before?
just remember that a general meeting is not a pitch meeting, because sometimes I know I shouldn't really say this thing as I turn in everything into monologues, but you don't want to go in and make it a monologue about yourself. You really want to start a conversation with someone, as Shayna was saying earlier, that because they're trying to work out whether they can spend 2 to 5 years in your presence as you kind of like work on this project together. So I think the first thing is always do your research on the person and find out. With our fast track fellowships, we always work on their personal pitch so they know who they are, why they do things, and the things they're interested in, the kind of the stories they want to tell. And then we make them write up 30 questions. You don't need 10 questions. It's a 30-minute conversation and they have 30 questions. So if the person said yes, no, don't know, they would still be okay for that 30 minutes. And the thing about doing 30 questions is by the end of it, your questions get a bit more interesting because you're like, well, you know, what am I going to ask them now? But because you've done some research, you've looked at the LinkedIn, where did they go to school? Did they do drama? Where there's a lot of dog park action, but I mean, have they got a really nice dog? You looked at them on Instagram, slightly stalked them. Have they been to the theatre recently and seen something? And you're like, I saw that production. You know, it's a way of just really honing in who they are as a person. And it's just because you want to make a friend. I think a lot of this has been about community, this whole kind of this time we've spent together. You can't do it on your own. It isn't just one thing. It's not just an agent. It's not just a manager. It's not one producer. It's not one contest win. It's not one. They can be an incident, a jolt at the beginning, the start, the spark, but it's everything else as well. That's what I was saying about being ready earlier as well. You have to be ready to with your script and with everything that you've got in line for this to happen for you. So I think 30 questions, understanding it's not a pitch, really genuinely ask them some questions that you want to know the answer to. And I wouldn't say with how you started in this business, because then you'll get a 15-minute reply and you'll only have 15 minutes left. It's literally like, what's your passion? What are you passionate about right now? What are you really excited about that you're working on? Is there anything that's on right now that you wish you'd been a part of? Something that allows them to speak to, will show their passions to what they've done and who they're at. But it's like it present, but then keep it relevant to yourself as well, because you are in the room with them. And if you ask them questions about when they worked with another famous person, which is nothing to do with your project and nothing to do with what you're talking about, it's lovely for them to tell you the anecdote, but it doesn't actually move the conversation forward. And Shayna, I'm now badminton. That was my shuttlecock noise. Over to you.
Grabbed it.
Yes, right.
I would just add to that. Whenever I go into general meetings, I try to remember, and I'm going to use the word try to remember that you're offering them something. So you're going into this giving them something instead of thinking about what can they do for me? Help me, I'm poor. You know what I mean? Like that mentality. Go into it. You're about to offer them the thing that's going to change their world. Like you got the best project and you're the best person for them, and they would be lucky to have you. So that's one thing. Try to go into it like that. I know sometimes it's difficult when you're meeting somebody that's maybe from a really big company and you're like, oh God, here we go. I've had many meetings where I just make a fool of myself, and sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. And honestly, if I embarrass myself and then I'm still friends with that person moving forward, that's who I want to be in business with, versus somebody who gives me the stink eye and never speaks to me again. They're not my people. So just understanding that every meeting, again, like the rejection thing, is moving you one step forward, and just going into it believing in what you're offering them. And being enthusiastic and excited, like Felicity said, and finding out about this human being. Instead of thinking in a transactional way, think of it as long-term goals. They might not have the ability to take on what you have now, but what about 3 years? I worked in production for 20 years, and those people are now the people those were my peers. Those are the people that are now executives and making deals and decisions. And I can call them up and say, hey, do you know this person? Can you help me make this connection? And because I've played the long game with them, they're generally like, yeah, sure, let me introduce you. And it just makes it a lot easier. So try not to go into those meetings in a transactional way.
That's great. All right, so here's a big one. Jeffrey, we're just going to clear the floor for you. because people have a million questions about writing gigs. The writing gigs that appear on the ISA website, how do they work? Where do they come from? How do I rise to the top? What are the misconceptions? Or maybe just pull the curtain back a little bit to kind of show like how this does operate a little bit.
Sure. All right. I'll try to be somewhat organized in all of that. That open four. And first, all of our writing gigs are ultimately derived from mandates from the industry, from big name companies to up and coming producers, all pretty much by the efforts of one Felicity Wren and another Shayna Webb. They go out, they find out those mandates, and they bring it to us, and we post writing gigs, but also we have producers who post writing gigs directly. And the ones that they post directly, they'll go through, but we also will go through gigs on their behalf. And that's what I want to really focus on when we're talking about using writing gigs to your advantage, because we've talked quite a bit today about having all your ducks in a row, making sure that you're really prepared if you get that opportunity. But I also want to stress the ISA is not a sink or swim institution. We're not going to hand you an opportunity and go, well, I hope it works out, and then drop you. And so when we on our team are going through writing gigs, if we find someone and it's not exactly where it needs to be, or the writer still needs to do some of the work that we're talking about, we're not going to just, again, throw you to a producer. We'll work with you and help you develop. Of course, knowing that this is a person who has that dedication is very important. And that's something you can control in terms of posting your success stories, being engaged and everything. And so that's one of the biggest misconceptions I also want to clear up. We don't penalize people for taking risks on themselves at the ISA and submitting to a writing gig that they might not be quote unquote perfect for. Don't filter yourself out. That's my number one recommendation for anyone submitting to a writing gig. Don't go, well, I don't know if my drama is a perfect match for every single word written in this posting, because it goes all the way back to those intangible qualities of your identity. Maybe it is what they're looking for, and they were struggling to put it into words. So submit to writing gigs. Don't hesitate to submit to them. Just keep that activity up. The other thing is the industry itself is always changing. Their mandates change, the industry changes, genres change and how they evolve. You go from X-Men 99 to Logan in not that long of a time. So even subgenres like that will just drastically mutate. No pun intended that time. So point is, the industry is not going to be a constant, but you can make yourself a constant by making sure you're always submitting and always engaging with our programs. So don't try and find the perfect thing or just be afraid. So that's the stuff that I wanted to really stress.
That's excellent. And there's a question right away. Can you explain the stages? I think that's like the statuses, perhaps.
Yes. If something is in consideration, then that does mean that it's being read, it's being moved through our system. We don't have the ability right now to show every granular step of the consideration, because by the time you get to really that process where we're ready to talk about sending that out to a producer, it's been through quite a number of readers, quite a number of team members. And so if you're in consideration, you have entered that process, you can always reach out and go, hey, where am I? Most of the time, the answer is going to be, well, it's an ongoing process. We might have even found you for one gig and we're like, oh, well, let's actually see about this other mandate because something else has come up. So that's what I have to share about that process right now. And we are always talking about different ways we can increase that transparency, but it's also a bit difficult because what we do, we want the producers to do, and what do they want to show and things like that.
Yes. And there's, just so many other parties outside of us that are ultimately calling the shots, and we can't make them all do what we want them to do. We're just trying to help facilitate.
We could have a gig posted in August, and by December they've changed their whole mandate, and we've just gotten through a bunch of them. So this stuff changes really fast, but you have to keep submitting. And it is we talked about this at the very beginning of the call. You could call it a rejection, or you could just call it one more step. You submitted, you're putting it out there. You keep putting it out there. And even in like Brokeback Mountain took 10, 12 years to get made. The Queen's Gambit took 30 years to find the perfect home. Just trust the process and keep submitting. keep updating your log lines, trying something fresh. If you're going to step away from a project for a little while, that's cool, but keep submitting it to the gigs if you're not working on it. Because again, the mandates just change from the same place. And then we're looking in another direction because they've decided, no, we're not doing that now. So
I think it is important to note, though, even if the mandate changes, somebody on the team is reading your script and finding it potentially to push it to somewhere else. We found scripts on writing gigs that have been staff picks, and then they get meetings from that, generals or representation. So it's not, even though you're submitting for one specific thing, you're being looked at for a number of other things at the same time.
Yeah.
And I would like
don't
to
submit your horror movie into a historical unless there's a historical horror request. But feel free to branch out a little bit and submit to things if it might actually spark some interest that we didn't anticipate.
I just wanted to follow up on what Molly was saying, is that we have so many different pipelines for scripts to succeed, from writing gigs to contests to script notes. And we're always trying to find ways to just engage with scripts that have connected with people. And so that's another reason why to keep that activity up is so important. And on top of that, we have a very diverse team, not just the people here, but part of the broader reading team. And we try to spread the reads around. We try to make sure that, this reader is really into this material. Did they like this script? Did they like that script? And so if you submit to a lot of writing gigs or contests, feedback, again, the whole shebang, you are actually getting more opinions on the scripts, because we are all aware, not a single person on this team is the one person who knows exactly what the best script is. And that's true of the industry. You've got to find that right match for you.
I was going to say, and the other thing is that they then come across to the development team. So there are certain scripts that when they have been through that process, and you're absolutely correct, we do check and they are read, and there is a very stringent process before any scripts come across to the development team. And that's because we have a reputation as the ISA for always being and supplying a very carefully curated selection of ideas to the producers, managers, filmmakers, directors that we go out to. So we're not throwing spaghetti at the wall. There are so many people, managers and agents actually, that we are told they just have a number of clients that they're just trying to get out to the world. And so they just put them forward for mandates that they're not suitable for. And that actually reflects badly on the writer. So we don't want to do that to you. We don't want to put a project forward of yours that isn't right for a mandate that you've submitted for, but maybe isn't completely correct for this producer. So we are very, very diligent in our reading, selection, and then curation of scripts that go to producers that we have connections with. But it is a place from which development slate writers are found. Development slate writers, which is our top tier of writers. It's 187 writers at the moment. It has been over 200, but we do have as writers are going off and doing other things, or as we feel like they are not committed to the process, because also part of your being on the development slate is showing us that you are committed to yourself and to your career. But it is one of the places that we find writers, is from the writing gigs, also from success stories. That's why I was saying that earlier. Jack Warner, I think, actually put this lovely note in the comments saying that he was found there, and that is correct. That's true. So was another one, Richie Johnson. So and Phoenix Black. I mean, the list goes on. Actually, to be honest with you, we are always looking at success stories, and then contest entries. As we were saying, our free contest entries quite often ending up being winners, and the winners are always looked at as a potential development slate writer. We also get referrals from other managers and agents and from other writers. So writers that are on our development slate sometimes are in a writers group with another great group of people, and they say, you must know this writer. That happened with Mary Elder, who was just signed with Felicity Blunt's as her manager in Curtis Brown in London. So there's all this. I have to say that we are always looking for you on the site. It's like detectives. If you are on the Writers' Showcase, which will become the marketplace, if you are posting your success stories, if you're doing your pitch video about who you are, we're looking for you. You're not shouting into the void with the ISA. There's actually a whole group of very dedicated individuals that are on the hunt so that we can help you. And the reason why is kind of selfish, because if you do well, you make us look good. So it's kind of it's a circle that comes back on itself. So that's why we want you to be tagging us at networkisa.org when you have a success story or you're posting something on the internet, because then we can amplify, excuse me, that's the right word, your voice to other people that follow us. And the numbers that Thada has been getting for us on our social media are growing and growing. This is the community. And you are part of that community if you help us help you get your voice out there. That is the whole point of the ISA website. That's why there are these articles. That is why there's a way you can track the spend that you've done. That's why there is these free contests. That's why there is the script library for free for you, so you can read other people's work and get ideas and see how other people have done it. It is so you can watch a red carpet interview of someone that you didn't know about 5 years ago that now seems to be doing so brilliantly. It's to keep you going. The answer isn't a manager, a producer, an agent. That isn't going to be your way out of it. The way out of making a career happen is you working on yourself, working on your projects, knowing what you want, and then taking steps towards what actually is going to make your career happen for you. And this is what we're here for you for. We're a support network. We're a hub. We are people that believe in you. We care about you telling your story, because I need your stories out there, because you are authentic. We need some different ways of seeing stuff, of telling stories, of making a difference in the world. And that's why it's international. And that's why we care about giving you this platform.
And I don't need any more notes after that, Felicity. That was amazing. Let's go straight to questions, because that was just such a great and pure, wonderful way to really encapsulate how we all feel as well. A really great question here. I'd love to see if anybody has a good answer. After winning 50 or so competitions, how do I meet with an agent or manager if I'm deaf? So does anybody have any?
Shayna, Felicity, you got anything?
I was going to say is that, well, first of all, I would look for organizations in that support creative people who have disabilities. So that I would look in that area. So if there's something in the deaf community where they support creative people, I would look for grants and areas of support. So you could go there will be, I know it's one of those things kind of like we were talking, I saw some stuff about AI. AI has its good parts and its bad parts. Let's be honest with it. It's not nuanced and it can't understand humanity the way that we can. So, but it is good for research. So I would do a massive deep dive into my research around any kind of grants, help communities that are focused on this, and then see where the help is. Also, I would do a search for producers and managers that have some kind of connection to the deaf community. Because sometimes it can be someone like there's a producer who knows someone whose brother has ASL. And so it's something that's very personal to them. So if you bring a script to them that is about ASL, then maybe they're likely to look at it because they have a focus or an idea or an understanding in that area.
Is that what you meant? ALS?
Oh, no, I meant ASL, the
American Sign Language.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, never mind.
No. So I just think for the different, it's like for whatever so it could be cancer, I don't know, or something amazing, basketball, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're trying to find your link. So what your way in is, and that, there are certain actors that, Coda as a production, who I would go to Coda. I would look at other screenplays that have deaf characters in them. I would do a search for deaf actors and who are they working with, who are the producers they're working with, and who are the writers that wrote the projects, and who are their managers and agents. So to try and reverse engineer. I think someone actually put that on IMDb Pro. That's what we suggest that a lot. If there is a show you want to write on, or there's a movie that you absolutely adored, find that writer and find out who reps them, and just see if there's anyone else in their kind of circle that maybe could help you.
So the previous question, the current question, and also this one, how can I get my animation script into the right hands? I wonder, I wanted to bring this up as far as doing outreach. We talked about networking a lot already, but things like query letters or just cold dropping somebody a line on, X or whatever social media, how valid do you think approaching people that way is?
I do it all the time. I query all the time. And the key to querying is make sure that it's not a form letter that you're sending to 50 people. That sounds the same. If you can find a connection to that person, that's your first line. Ask them for one thing. Ask them for a 15-minute Zoom conversation. I learned this from Kaya Alexander, who's Entertainment Business School. So shout out to Kaya. You ask for one thing and you ask, would you be willing to, in that ask. Don't send them your script. Don't ask them to read your script. Don't ask them to read your script right away. Ask them for 15 minutes so you can ask questions. Ask if would they be willing to look at your log lines, but don't send your log lines. You have to keep it simple and short if you're going to query. And again, it's like the rejection thing. You're going to get no responses from a gazillion people, and that's okay. You just have to keep trying and keep reaching out to people. And if you get one conversation, that could lead to 5 other people. So querying does work. I've gotten many meetings from querying. I've gotten Netflix meetings from cold querying. I've gotten different departments at Netflix because I was nice to an assistant after a query. So you got to try, and there's no real winning way to do it. But sometimes querying works because if you send a query on a Thursday at 11 a.m., when that person just happens to have cleared out their email and one pops up, they may reply to you. So you never know. You got to try.
Yeah.
Love that. Ilana and Jeffrey, I think, what do you guys think about AI feedback? You might have opinions. I'm not sure.
I'll say this. AI feedback, it's not getting you first and foremost across that initial barrier of receiving notes from another person. And by that, I don't just mean that the notes from another person are going to be better. It's all about making a connection with another person and having that confidence to put your material out there. I think a lot of people who are using AI feedback, they're a little afraid of putting their scripts out there, getting that sense of rejection, getting their feelings hurt. And those are valid concerns. But AI can actually hinder your ability to overcome that. In terms of the quality, it's bad. And there's a ceiling on it. One of the problems is that it's based off of material that's already existing, and that places a kind of date on its efficacy. As time goes on, it starts to get outdated, and then they have to update the models. And so you're actually going to be getting kind of a lagging indicator if you're looking for anything in terms of the broader market. And then the final part of it is, it just doesn't fundamentally understand concepts. If you actually look at limited language models and how they work, they can describe an apple, they can tell you where the apple is, but they don't actually know what an apple is. It's just finding the right answers around that. And when you're really looking to improve your material, you're looking for someone who understands the components of your writing, not just the characters and where they are, but who they are in the abstract, how they can grow. These are all things that AI just isn't equipped to do. And so feel free to use it. To just kind of go, do I want to just see what I might be getting? But understand also that the more you use it, the more it might actually damage your ability to get good notes and absorb it.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I just really quickly wanted to add, we were talking earlier about how readers want to push the project and they're going to come into it already believing in this project, and AI doesn't have that necessarily, like the care for the project that a reader will have, and a reader will take the time to actually think about the notes that they're writing. AI is just simply serving its function. AI will give you feedback the same way it'll answer any generic question. And also, some readers are writers themselves or creatives and are coming into notes with their own expertise and their own ideas about writing that will help elevate your project. And like I said already, AI is just serving its simple function. It has a baseline knowledge of writing that a real writer or a reader doesn't have.
And it has a bias as well. I mean, there's a lot of little fun videos on social media where people are making fun of, like, I put this into Chat GPT and it told me to basically go and cuss my employer out. And, it's just like, because it's just going to feed whatever bias you have. And so if you want it to give you a pat on the back, because it's going to give you a pat on the back. However they created the models, they don't want it to just be tearing a person apart. And so it's going to give you a pat on the back. So are you really getting true feedback from it? Is it really telling you what you need to help elevate your script? Like Jeffrey said, by all means, if you just want to do a quick pass or something, yeah, I mean, it's there. They created this great technology, but at the end of the day, you still would need a human to give you, proper feedback. And another thing about ChatGPT or any of those AI models, you can't just put an entire script in there and expect it to go line by line by line by line and give you feedback on every single thing on there. It's missing all kind of stuff in there. So use it, but I would say limited to just getting like some little quick feedback, but not totally like breaking down your script the way that the readers will do for you.
Craig, did you have something?
I would just say the one thing is if AI asks you if that you would like them to write the scene or rewrite the scene or rewrite the dialogue, always decline.
Yeah.
It is you should love the idea, get some ideas, brainstorm, that's all fine or whatever. But when it comes to the writing part, do it. You should do the writing. Don't let AI do the writing for you, because there are systems now that are evaluating that stuff. And that takes you out of award consideration and all sorts of other things with studios. So I would be very careful about that. Just decline. You're a writer, be creative. If you want to brainstorm, cool, but do the writing.
I have to add one more thing. Sorry.
Of course you do.
I could talk about AI for a long time, and I'm holding myself back. But when we're training the readers, because that's something that we do at the ISA, we do it constantly, even with readers who've been here for a long time. One of the things that we focus on is the reality that getting feedback is emotionally a difficult thing for a writer. And AI, as Thada was talking about, it usually has that tone to give you what you want and to be lighter and to be encouraging, which is all fine. But what we're trying to get our readers to do is to provide that actionable criticism. And so we're always talking to the readers of like, okay, how is your tone? And how, even if your tone is fine, how are you piling on the criticism? How are you organizing the criticism so that it's as absorbable by the writer as possible? And so we're thinking about it as a human experience, as an emotional experience, as well as an intellectual one. And that's where AI, what they're going to want to do, is to provide that easy, absorbable material that's not really challenging you. And so that's another reason to avoid AI, as well as just to avoid notes that are like, well, here's some commas you could fix, and then you're good to go.
Great. Just want to shout out this person who's leaving. So David Schwartz, his first year with the ISA. Thank you for being part of the family. And going forward, we look forward to celebrating whatever you're doing next. We are running long, so I'm just going to bring two more questions up. This one, I think, could be very much in line with what Shayna was already talking about with how to approach query letters. But Fran, I'll summarize. First off, yes, we are looking at the Facebook questions as well. But she says she goes to film festivals and filmmakers, producers would be there, and they're always swarmed by people asking for favors. Are people that are, whether maybe they have a movie there or maybe they were there speaking on a panel, do they hate that? Or should I go ahead and still talk to them anyway and try to get them to read my stuff?
Felicity, do you want to take that one or do you want me to? Me? Are you pointing at me over there?
Yeah, because I was on mute. Oh. So I was like, oh.
Okay, so first of all, I think that your first instinct was right, not to pitch them in that moment. I've had people at festivals chase after me and tell me log lines, and I'm like, it's a little bit jarring. But what you did was make that connection with somebody, and now you should follow up with them, and you should start a friendship with them. And at that point, you can ask them, hey, what are you looking for right now? I'd love to share any of my stories with you if I knew what you were looking for. So definitely follow up and reach out to that person that you met at the festival and say, hey, I met you at the festival. We were talking about this, this, and this, refresh their memory. And then you can either, wait for them to reply to you and start the conversation. Or if you just really want to know, you could ask them there. That might be off-putting, but it's up to you. It depends on how well the conversation went, to be honest with you. But I think that instinct is really good, to not be pitching your ideas to somebody who's like leaving a panel or coming out of a screening at a film festival. It's just overwhelming sometimes to be approached like that. So you can obviously like start a conversation with somebody and meet them and give them your card or exchange information. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think saying good job or something like that is kind of nice, saying like it was a really, really great. And actually we did a panel recently and someone followed up and mentioned, because I'd said something about silver linings and they mentioned that. So they gave me the clue that they were listening to what I said. And then they mentioned something that was important to me in the panel. So then I was like, I'm going to read the rest of this email. It's just one of those things. I think it's a great follow-up tool, even if you don't get to speak to them, if it does feel like they're swamped. Because also as well, you're in a weird state when you've just finished doing a panel. Your brain's on hyperactivity when you're doing it. And then when it's over, it kind of goes out your ear and like down your neck and really wants to go into a large gin and tonic, I have found. And so like the idea of trying to have a sensible conversation with them afterwards can also be to your detriment. Especially if we had some guy that was making us guess the log line at the last, at AFM, and I will not be following up with him.
Yeah, really finding something that touched you during the panel. If it's a panel that really resonated, make a note of what they said and then say, hey, in a query letter or email on LinkedIn, wherever, this really meant a lot to me. And that really clicked for me. By connecting, it's all about building the relationship and connecting. And if you can connect to somebody, not by telling them what you have to offer, but that what they offered or put out there really resonated with you, that's going to have a bigger impact. You're going to be more memorable to them. Because, we all like to be told or reminded that we're what we said had some value. And it's, to say that bit of advice was awesome. It really clicks.
I think Craig is fishing for comments on the YouTube video right now.
That's right. Hit him up.
It's good to remember that literally everybody's there to be meeting people, but there's also boundaries and there's the right way to go about things. So being approached is definitely, as Shayna was saying, make an impression, but then let the follow-up happen later. Very important. I saw one of the questions, Felicity, how do you keep the cats from eating the tinsel off of the tree?
Well, of course, this is the most important question.
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is I don't.
Yeah.
There's not actually much tinsel on it. It's kind of like mainly white, and it's got baubles on the end. But honestly, she's had so many of the balls off, and they're all around my apartment. Is all I can say. So and I am waiting for her to have sparkle poops because she's chews, I think.
We bookend this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So finally, to finish off, how to hook agents and producers representation. We have somebody here who has a shopping agreement with a producer and a director attached. How can I use that to get a manager? I wonder how much you might need a manager if you're really doing some good stuff on your own, because I think that's something we haven't really talked about. Is you don't always need somebody to look over contracts and whatnot, but if you can make things happen on your own, keep doing that. But it's still also good to have a manager. But so what does anybody in this room have to say to this?
I think it's a difficult spot because you feel like there is a sense that you do want, but an agent looks over your contract, not a manager anyway. There is a sense where, because Craig talks about the 90-10 rule, that to be honest with you, you're going to do most of the work anyway. And if this film is a success, there's going to be managers coming to you. And that's what you want to do. I think Shayna talked about it as well, is remember that you are the offering. You are the gift. You've written the script. You've put this together. You're doing extremely well. If there is something that you feel confused about, or if you feel like the deal's going a bit awry, then I think it would be, if you have other writer friends that are in the industry, you could ask them for a referral. You would say, please, can you speak to your manager and say, I've got this is happening. I'm worried about this piece. Could you possibly, can I use your name as a referral? Can you mention me to them, and maybe I can just have a conversation with them? Because you might find a manager that's willing to fish with you just to see whether or not this is real, because and what the scope of the project is. But again, I would do that thing about reverse engineering, look at other projects that are in the same ballpark, in the same genre. Who wrote those? Who is their manager? And if you didn't know anyone, I would start looking there as a way to try and find some other prospective people to go to.
Excellent. Well, I think that'll probably do it. Check out the website, networkisa.org, if you haven't yet. Free to sign up. There is a Connect membership where you get all sorts of additional bells and whistles and perks. And I don't know, Craig, is there any final thoughts that you wanted to share as we say goodnight on this Monday evening?
Yeah, I mean, just try to enjoy the steps and not be in too much of a hurry, right? Because if you, in a perfect world, if you're doing the 90-10 where you're all the stuff we've talked about, that's 90%. An agent's going to find you, and producers are going to find you. If you're doing those things and you're being prepared for the moment, that's really critical. Be prepared. Do all the stuff that is necessary. All the things we talked about today will get you to being prepared, getting your script to being to the level it needs to be, a really original idea, and an undeniable effort on your part. And you'll find the next step. You'll make the next step.
That's wonderful. And, there's so much to do, so much work to put in. But as long as we can keep reminding ourselves that we're following our passion, that we are following our own dream and hopefully our destiny, that will help us hopefully get through what can sometimes feel like burnout. And if you can try to reset yourself and remind yourself of the positive, that you are pursuing your dreams and what's life for other than that. Thank you all for watching. You can always reach out to us. We are here for you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Scott. Bye, everybody.